I've been tagged by the Stig. It's his favourite tag. I'm going to have to crack on, no hanging around, because I've just written a shitload of notes. Because things like stick in my head. I've written a shitload of notes and I've got 2 whole pages worth. So I'm going to crack on really quickly. I will tag people this time. I've not done a tag in a long time. I feel able to tag other people. So yeah, it's Stig's favourite tag. The questions are: what is your all-time favourite system, and what is your favourite game for that system? What is your least favourite system in your collection, and why do you still collect for it? What system do you really want to have in your collection, brackets, which you've never played, and why? Number 4, final. Which system in your collection has the most nostalgia for you? Please elaborate. First question: what's your all-time favourite system? What's your favourite game for that system? Well, this was a toss-up between the Mega Drive and the PS1. Personally, the Mega Drive, it came about with it was the shock of the transition from the tape to the cartridge. That was just a revelation at the time, wasn't it? Having to sit and wait for a tape to load was just a bastard. And the fact that, I used to have a CPC 464, and just sort of having to wait for one to load, it was just irritating beyond belief. My mate even had a 6128 with the old floppies, and that was better, but still not really up to scratch. And then cartridges came along with the Mega Drive, and it just sort of blew you away. The fact you just go plonk, whack it in, and there's a game. There's no waiting around for half an hour and then potentially it doesn't work after that. But So yeah, sorry, I'm reading notes. Plenty of games for the Mega Drive, like the Shining Force, Fantasy Star 4, Thunder Force 4, EA Hockey, Streets of Rage. Everyone says Streets of Rage, and then actually there's probably others, but I think as a kid, I was a kid when I had one. And I couldn't really afford my own games. I can still remember being really guilty. The one time I actually badgered my mum into buying me a game. I remember badgering her into buying me Fatal Fury, and the guilt that came with it. I was like, I'm not doing that again. And so it's frustrating the fact that you couldn't actually buy your own games. You didn't get that many games. Sort of a year. That sort of changed with the PS1 because I could afford my own games. When I had a Mega Drive, I was a kid, and once I got a PS1, I became a man, so to speak. I grew up. It was a rites of passage. That's what it is. A PS1 became a rites of passage. I could afford my own games. The PS1 meant that the gaming wasn't just the preserve of youths in dark arcades and dark bedrooms. It was for everyone, wasn't it? It opened gaming up to a whole new audience. And games were more sophisticated and they were more elaborate and they were bigger and they were less repetitive as well. They weren't so elaborate that they were overcomplicated, which I think a lot of this generation now are. But they hadn't really lost the charm of that previous generation. They sort of still retained it, and I think that's maybe why the PS1 was probably my all-time favourite system of ones I've owned. That's one of the things I've had to rein in. That I've not owned a whole load of systems. Some I have had for a short amount of time, and I've not really wanted to include them. So for the PS1, my favourite games I've mentioned in the past, I'd probably have to. I couldn't choose between Final Fantasy VII and Suikoden 2, I'm afraid. So yeah, but also actually, I think that one of the things against the PS1 is that it was just at the time when companies were learning to market their product properly, and that was sort of the beginning of the end for sort of cynical corporate marketing towards gaming, towards gamers and their audience, but still, yeah, PS1. Number 2, what is your least favourite system? I would have to say, I've got a whole load of reasons for these. This generation, I've got a 360 and a Wii. If I had a PS3, I'll probably include that as well. And I'll just read out its list. Mainly, it's because the more sophisticated the games have come, more overly elaborate they are. Too elaborate, and they've become too serious. I mean, they are games, they're video games. I mean, sorry for the air speech marks. I hate people who do that. But they become less serious. They're games, aren't they? More serious, sorry. I'll just read out this list. Peripherals for everything. Just games that you have to have a specific peripheral to play. Its cost. Achievements that make you play a game apart from actually completing it. It's something aside from the actual completion of a game and the experience. It's just details which are inconsequential. Gamer scores. What the fuck are gamer scores? Who gives a toss? That's just basically, it's one-upmanship. It's like it's a little number next to your name. You get little numbers next to your name in everything nowadays, don't you? Gamer score, I mean, does that really have any sort of relevance? On what scale is that? I mean, it makes no reference to experience, does it really? It's who got there first. That winds me up. Incomplete games that are shipped incomplete, games that need downloadable content, multiple versions of games. Assassin's Creed 2 was shipped with, it had 2 versions, one with slightly more content than the other, which was slightly more expensive. So when you go to buy it, you say, I think I'll have that one. Pay that little bit more that you wouldn't have paid if you weren't able to compare directly with the cheaper one with less content. You'd pay the higher price. Winds me up. Systems are the same, incomplete systems, multiple versions of systems, with hard drives, without hard drives, with HDMI ports, microtransactions for downloadable content. Downloadable content, add up everything you spent on one game, all that downloadable content. Ask yourself, would you pay that much in one go as one-off transaction? I bet you wouldn't. Less attention paid to a single-player game, single-player experience, the offline experience. Systems that are shipped without hardware or peripherals. Like I had to shell out for an HDMI cable just so I could get the full experience of my so-called 360 Elite. Elite, that's just marketing, isn't it? And the fact they painted it black makes it a bit cooler. And they've got a wireless adapter as well. But the biggest one, and all of these points you can pretty much apply to any of this generation. Build quality. How do they get away with making the 360 as badly made as it is? I don't know. Why do I still collect it? For the potential, it's the immersiveness. If I can get to grips with the elaborate controls, sometimes the overly elaborate controls, if I can teach myself how to use them, it's the potential, it's the immersiveness, the potential experience. I mean, obviously, now the capabilities mean the graphics, the gameplay, the atmosphere, the playability atmosphere are unlike anything that you would have played previously. And potentially that means that the gameplay experience is better. I mean, the ideal would be if the control systems were more simplified, but you still had sort of the gameplay experience in front of you. If somehow they could work out a system, I don't know. But also, Nintendo are starting to embrace their core audience more, which they've moved away from. In this cynical age, they've moved around to this other audience. When they're starting to release a whole load of new games, which makes me optimistic. With Sin and Punishment, for one, Sin and Punishment looks like it's just not going to take off. I can imagine so. I mean, but still they've done it, and there's a whole load of games like that they have done, and that makes me optimistic. If only people would disregard all the family games, the party game compendiums, and play something like Sin and Punishment 2 or Muramasa or Tatsunoko vs Capcom. You know, I'm already come up to 11 minutes and I've only done 2 questions, so I'll come back for part 2 in a